You've seen it. You felt it. That sinking feeling at the checkout counter when your grocery total just keeps going up. A dozen eggs, a gallon of milk, a simple loaf of bread. Things that were once afterthoughts now feel like luxury items. Every trip to the store is an exercise in anxiety, a battle between what your family needs and what your budget can actually handle. The numbers on the receipt don't lie. They get bigger, while the bags in your cart seem to get smaller. It's a quiet crisis happening in every kitchen in America, forcing impossible choices on millions of families. We're told it's inflation, a supply chain still tangled up from the pandemic, or even a bird flu wiping out millions of chickens. And those things are real. But while you were trying to decide between steak and ground beef, a handful of powerful companies were reporting some of the highest profits they've seen in 50 years. This isn't just bad luck. It feels like the system is rigged against you. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the real reasons you can't afford groceries. Let's start with the explanations you've already heard, the ones all over the news. The biggest one is inflation. The government's own numbers show that in the 12 months leading up to September 2025, food prices shot up 3.1%. That's after even crazier spikes, like the nearly 11.4% jump we saw back in 2022. Earlier in 2025, the USDA projected that grocery store prices would rise by about 2.4%. But the reality as of September has already outpaced that, hitting 2.7%. These numbers aren't just statistics, they represent real pain. Some aisles got hit especially hard. For instance, the index for meats, poultry, fish, and eggs rose 5.2% over the last year. Specifically, beef and veal prices have been punishing, jumping a staggering 13.9% in August 2025 compared to the year before, partly because the U.S. cattle herd has shrunk to its smallest size in decades. And who can forget the Great Egg Crisis? Prices more than doubled in recent years, which was blamed on a devastating avian flu that wiped out millions of hens. Then you have the supply chains. We're still feeling the aftershocks of the pandemic, which threw global logistics into chaos. Add in global conflicts that mess with grain and energy markets, and you have a perfect storm. These are real issues, and they do make it more expensive to get food to your store. They are the convenient, easy-to-understand reasons we're given for our financial pain, and for a while they made sense. But as time has dragged on, a new, more troubling question has emerged. Are they the whole story? Because while American families have been stretching every dollar, something else has been happening. Something that isn't talked about nearly as much. While you've been paying more, many of the largest food corporations haven't just been surviving, they've been thriving. Their profits haven't just been stable, they've been record-breaking. So if it's not just inflation and it's not just supply chains, what is it? This is where we go beyond the official story and into the shadows of the American food system. This is where we find the hidden architecture that lets prices climb and stay high, long after the initial crisis has passed. This is where we find the conspiracy. Not a secret meeting in a smoke-filled room, but a conspiracy of interests, of concentrated power, and of opportunistic greed that's been decades in the making. The American food industry, from farm to checkout, is not the competitive marketplace you might imagine. It's an oligopoly, a market controlled by a tiny number of massive corporations. This isn't an accident. It is the result of decades of mergers and consolidation that were often approved or ignored by the very regulators meant to prevent this. Just look at the grocery stores. The top 5 chains, Walmart, Kroger, Costco, Albertsons, and Aldi, now control nearly half of all grocery spending in the country. Walmart alone commands over 21% of the market. This gives these giants incredible power. They can dictate terms to suppliers, and more importantly, they don't have to compete as hard on price to win your business. When just a few companies rule the market, there's less pressure to lower prices. This problem almost got much worse. You probably heard about the proposed $24.6 billion mega merger between Kroger and Albertsons, the second and fourth largest grocers. The Federal Trade Commission, FTC, blocked the deal, arguing it would kill competition and lead to even higher prices for millions of Americans. But the fact that they even tried shows the relentless push to consolidate. The situation is even more extreme in the meat industry. Just 4 companies, Tyson, JBS, Cargill, and National Beef, control over 80% of the beef processing market. This gives them a stranglehold, allowing them to squeeze ranchers on one end and overcharge consumers on the other. For years, these companies have faced accusations of price fixing. They've paid out hundreds of millions in settlements for lawsuits alleging they conspired to restrict supply and artificially inflate beef prices, all while denying they did anything wrong. This concentration of power creates the perfect environment for what many are calling greedflation. Greedflation is a simple but powerful idea. It's when corporations use the cover of a crisis, like inflation or supply chain issues, to raise prices far beyond their actual cost increases, just to pad their profit margins. It's not just passing along costs, it's taking advantage of the situation. Think back to the skyrocketing egg prices. While the avian flu was a real problem that reduced supply, it was also a convenient excuse. As prices at the shelf soared, the country's largest egg producer, Cal-Maine Foods, saw its profits explode by over 700% during the peak of the crisis. They were making more money than ever before, precisely because consumers were paying more than ever before. It's a textbook example of how a market shock can be used for extraordinary corporate gain. And this wasn't an isolated incident. Across the board, we've seen a disturbing pattern. Analysis from groups like the Groundwork Collaborative has shown corporate profits hitting 50-year highs, while Americans struggled to afford basics. While you were staring at a package of chicken and wondering if you could still afford it, the companies selling that chicken were boasting to investors about their fantastic pricing power. A study comparing the profit margins of large consumer packaged goods, CPG, companies to grocery retailers shows a huge difference. The big brand CPG firms had an average 3-year net income margin of 14.2%, while the grocers themselves averaged just 3.5%. This shows a massive chunk of the price hikes are happening before products even hit the shelves, with giant food producers capturing most of the profits. It's a 1-2 punch to your wallet. First, market consolidation kills competition, giving a few companies immense control. Second, those companies use that control to exploit crises, raising prices under the guise of inflation while their profits soar. It validates that gut feeling you get at the register, the sense that it's not just you, and that the system is indeed unfair. The good news is, people are starting to fight back. The government's lawsuit to block the Kroger-Albertsons merger was a huge win for consumers. And in November 2025, the Department of Justice confirmed it was launching an investigation into the major meatpackers for price fixing and market manipulation. These are promising signs that regulators are waking up to the threat that corporate concentration poses to your wallet. There are even new legislative efforts, like the proposed Stop Price Gouging in Grocery Stores Act of 2025, which was introduced in the House in August 2025. This bill aims to give the FTC more power to go after retailers who sell items at grossly excessive prices during a market shock. It's a direct attempt to outlaw the very behavior that has become so common. These actions are just the beginning, but it's the start of a long fight to restore some fairness to our food system. So why can't you afford groceries? The answer is so much bigger than just inflation. It's a system where a handful of corporate giants have become so powerful they can basically write their own rules. It's a system where a crisis isn't just an obstacle to overcome, but an opportunity to profit. The official stories about supply chains and economic headwinds are real, but they're also a convenient smokescreen for the deeper problem of unchecked corporate power. That feeling that the deck is stacked against you? It's not just a feeling, it's a reality backed up by corporate profit reports. The road to a fairer food system is long, but it starts with understanding what's really going on. It starts with rejecting the simple excuses and demanding accountability from the companies and leaders who let this happen. What have you seen in your own grocery store? What item has shocked you the most with its price increase? Share your story in the comments below. The more of us who understand what's really happening, the more pressure we can build for a system that values feeding families over corporate greed. Share this video and help spread the word.